Hello and welcome to Nessie's Dead. As always, we are your hosts, Spencer and Helen.
Hello.
Hello, and almost happy Halloween.
Almost. We're
We
getting
are,
close.
as of when this episode airs, we are a week out.
And then it's over. I don't want it to be over.
Well, spooky season's not over, it's just Halloween.
No, spooky season never dies.
No.
That's
Actually,
year-round.
I'm excited because it's like November to me. If you like look at it in terms of horror, the season horrors or horror seasons, November is like cryptid core out hunting for Sasquatch and skinwalkers in the woods, a mysterious town in Oregon, and then December is all about Krampus, Victorian Christmas ghost stories, and entering into the winter monsters. So then winter, of course, to me is perfect for obviously winter monsters. Or
we have like 3 more months.
Yeah, and then spring is like Satanic Sacrifice spring.
Oh, midsummer. Yeah.
And then slasher summer.
It never ends.
And then Summerween. And then we're back to Halloween.
Yeah. It just never ends. We've always got something going on.
We do.
Yeah.
But for now,
what do you got?
I have an episode that I feel like this is going to be good for Halloween season. It's not like super Halloween-y, but it is kind of a fun mystery. It's unsolved officially. It kind of, in terms of when we get into theories of it, it teeters into kind of every different direction that we usually cover here on Nessie's Dead.
It's not in the woods, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, because I think we've already covered that like 100 times about the woods.
That's all you. That's not me.
I know.
But for this story, I'm not yet going to tell you exactly what we're going to talk about.
Oh, you're going to do that again.
I'm going to kind of build into it.
Okay.
But for this week's episode, we are going back to Europe. I feel like I've covered a lot in Europe lately.
Well, we have a good fan base in Europe currently, so...
Yeah, million listeners are... We have 1 million from Europe?
Like a couple thousand.
Maybe or was it 2-3 million? I lost count.
That's so many. I don't even know.
It's like one listener in Bosnia.
Probably.
This episode's for you.
This is for you, buddy. Thanks for your support.
We are going to be going to Scotland, specifically.
Is it the Loch Ness?
No.
Oh.
I'm nervous to cover that.
Oh, because we are Nessie. We're the Nesser.
We're going to be going to Edinburgh. Even more specifically, we are going to be going to an area called Arthur's Seat. So Arthur's Seat is an ancient volcano. It is no longer active. I think this is actually in a national park called Holyrood.
So we are going back to the national park. We can't escape it.
I think it's a national park from... I didn't do a deep dive into is Arthur's Seat considered a national park, but I think it is.
Here we are. We're back. We're back, bitches.
The name, people believe that the name is connected to King Arthur, which would make sense. Arthur's Seat, Arthur, King, whatever. Yeah. But it's also believed to be the home of Camelot. Fun fact. This area is also known, of course, for fairy lore, like most of Scotland. And the morning dew on the grass of Arthur's Seat is said to have mystical properties that it gives you youth and beauty. So on May Day, women would go up to this area and rinse their face with the morning dew off of the grass for vitality and beauty.
I'd be there every day.
Yeah. A little more lore about this area is people believed that the volcano itself was actually formed by a dragon. As the story goes, this dragon was flying around. He lived in this area that is now considered Arthur's Seat. He was out flying around, ate a bunch of food, got really full, really tired, went back to his home, fell asleep, and never woke up.
Oh.
And his body ended up turning into the land and forming the volcano.
He's big then.
Yeah.
He's a thick boy.
Now, I don't know if the magical morning dew is real or if the dragon story was real or if this really was the site of Camelot and King Arthur. But we do know that the area was home to some Celtic tribes way back in the day. So it's pretty full of a lot of rich and unique history and lore and whatnot. But there was a really interesting discovery there in the 1830s, and that's what we're going to focus in on.
I don't know. I'm clueless of what would have been found in the 1830s. Should I know this?
No. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you might know it. Probably not. We're going to be talking about the Arthur's Seat coffins.
I don't.
Well,
enlighten
get ready
me.
because we're going to take the plunge.
Let's plunge.
So in June of 1836, there were 3 boys out hunting rabbits around Arthur's Seat. As they're doing their thing, they're out and about. They come across this like depression or kind of hollowed out space in the side of this mountain. The way I'm picturing it is kind of like a hillside with this like burrow digged out.
Okay.
Dug out. A lot of reports do refer to it as a cave, but I'm just going to make it clear this was not a cave. It was not a natural formation. It was very much so man-made, and it was really not that big. It was pretty shallow, so it really was more of like a depression than anything else, right? But they notice it, and they notice in front of it are these slabs of stone covering it. So the boys are interested because they are like, okay, well, what, this is like a stone door. What is it covering?
Mm-hmm.
So naturally they move it back and they see this little hollowed out space. Inside it are 17 coffins, specifically 17 tiny coffins.
Random.
When I say tiny, I mean like tiny, 3 to 4 inches tall.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like children, but no.
No. Think more like fairy-sized coffins.
Oh.
They were positioned in 3 different tiers with 8 on each tier and then 1 by itself. And it was
like
described
the grand
that they were
coffin, like the ruler, the queen, the king.
I don't know if that one lone one was top or bottom. There's no photo of this because 1836 and
but
a lot
sounds
of what
like it was special.
I don't think the boys considered it to be very special. I would definitely say this is a very special discovery.
Yeah.
But I'll get to it in a minute. They don't consider it to be very special.
Wow.
But there were 7 on each like shelf, I guess. Each tier was kind of like a stone slab, I think designed to be like a shelf kind of. That's the way that I read it in the research.
Mm-hmm.
But when the boys find it, they really must not have thought much of it at all because they ended up throwing the tiny coffins at each other, which broke them. I don't know.
Tiny bodies inside?
Well,
okay.
Perhaps.
Okay.
We'll get to that. But I don't know what made the boys think, hey, let's take this super weird discovery in this hollowed out thing behind a rock slab. Let's take it and throw it at each other and destroy them.
Were they young?
Yeah.
Boys will be boys, I guess.
I guess. But they destroyed over half of them, leaving only 8. Oh. So we only to this day have 8, which is frustrating because I would love to know the differences in all 17 because there are some differences in each coffin and they have used the 8 to try to figure out, of course, where these came from and what they're really about. And I feel like if we had more, perhaps they would have been able to figure a few things out.
Yeah, kind of put the puzzle together better.
At least get a tiny bit closer.
Yeah.
However, even though it seemed to the boys that this wasn't a very special discovery because they destroyed half of it, one of them does end up telling the headmaster at their school, Mr. Ferguson. This one kid must have thought that it was something at least of some kind of interest because he does talk about it. Mr. Ferguson actually was part of a local archaeology group. Maybe that's why he was the one that the boy told, but he was like, oh, wow, okay, this is actually very interesting. So Mr. Ferguson goes up to Arthur's seat to investigate for himself. He gets there, he sees the remaining 8 coffins. He picks them up and takes them back home and looks into them himself. With that, let's talk a little bit about these coffin details.
Yes, let's.
So they vary from about 3.5 to about 4.3 inches tall. Most of them, tiny. Most of them are about 3.5. They're made of pine wood, and it's believed that they were all made from one singular piece of pine wood. And the top of the coffins, like the lids, have some kind of metal on them. And it has, I guess, and I'll send you a picture in a second. And for our listeners, this will, of course, be posted online. But the metal on the coffins looks like it's done as ornament for them.
Little decoration.
And the lids were attached by little pins. And then inside of the coffins are tiny little wooden figures. So these little wooden people are inside of the coffins.
What?
Yes. They are dressed, kinda. Some of them look like they're in real clothes more than others. Some of them kind of look like they were just wrapped quickly in a fabric, perhaps. But they are considered to be fully dressed, and the clothing is either glued or stitched on to the wooden figures.
Seems intricate.
Very. They also, there was a lot of detail put into the coffins and the little wooden figures. They even had eyes. I mean, I think the eyes were painted on or carved or something, but they had eyes, so there's detail there. The figures were also laying on either raggy fabric. 7 of them were on some kind of fabric, and then 1 of them was sitting on paper. And I think most of them, if not all of them, their feet were painted black, which they believe was supposed to act as boots. And I will go ahead and send you a photo of these special little coffin figures.
I just see. Oh, wow. They're like little dolls.
Aren't they fabulous and creepy?
I love them. I would put them in my room. Wow, those are really cool. Their arms are so long.
I know. I think that's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, I love it.
The one with the long arms to me looks like a loose straitjacket.
Yeah, it does.
Now, you would think something like this, burrowed into the ground, would be perhaps some kind of ancient relic.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first learned about this case, I heard about it from the podcast Morbid. They covered it a few years ago. Like a year ago, I listened to it. And as I'm listening to them cover it, I'm like, oh, it's probably some ancient Celtic something or other.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. These actually are relatively modern.
They look so old, though.
I know. Well, now they're very old. But at the time when they were discovered in 1836, a lot of them were brand new. And there were a few that showed signs of decay. So even though they're all pretty new and relatively recently placed in this hollowed out tomb at Arthur's seat, they all seemed to be placed at different times. There were some that had obvious signs of decay on the wood. There was mold on the clothes. They were kind of dusty and dirty. As you went, they would get newer and newer and newer. The most recent one was believed to have been placed only a few days before the boys discovered it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think that's extra creepy. They could have literally been there when someone was placing this coffin doll.
Yeah. Or just walked up on it right afterwards.
Yeah, for all they knew, it could have been someone doing it 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. Ew, creepy.
Now, the initial reporting of the coffins referred to them as the fairy coffins because of their size, and fairies were popular in Scottish lore.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was very connected to witchcraft. People believed that there was some kind of supernatural quality to the Arthur seat coffins.
Little voodoo dolls or something.
They definitely have that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Which is why I like them.
Mm-hmm.
Locals actually wanted the boys to be celebrated for having destroyed over half of them because they believed that their discovery was some kind of evil witch tomb. So the boys destroying some of them was doing the Lord's work, protecting the area from witches.
Those bad witches.
Now, of course, a lot of theorizing and a lot of rumors started to come about because of these Arthur's Seat coffins. And we'll get into all of that, of course, at the end when we go over the theories. But the locals were actually so curious about who could be placing these tiny, weird little intricate coffin figures in the tomb that they set up a watchman to sit out at the area and wait for somebody. No one ever showed up. The watchman just sat there and it was quiet.
Wasted his time.
Yeah, nothing happened. But I think obviously nothing happened because the person doing it, for whatever reason, did not want to be discovered.
I mean, weird little habit, like hobby back then, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, especially because some theories talk about it being symbolic or ritualistic. And perhaps this person didn't want their practice out, or perhaps this person was, and we'll get into this, but perhaps this person was involved in something and didn't want to be caught.
Isn't like a little serial killer? And every time.
Shall see.
Oh, okay.
So, like I said, nobody shows up. The watchman job, I think, kind of just fizzles out. People do kind of start losing interest in the coffins, which I find, I mean, I guess if nothing's happening, no one's coming forward with it, and there's no new information coming out about it, I guess it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
but,
old news.
Yeah. A jeweler named Robert Fraser ends up purchasing the coffins, and he displays them in a private museum that he ran. He ends up retiring in, I think, the mid-1840s. The coffins were on display at his museum until his retirement. Then from there, he sells them to a woman for £4, which is $5.36 in US dollars.
That's not much.
No.
Or was it a lot then?
I mean, I think it was like 500 at that time, but even that's not. I guess 500 was kind of a lot back then, but not. It's not. To me, it's still not that great of an amount.
No.
So after that, we don't know what that buyer ends up doing with them. We don't know where the dolls go or where the coffins go. They kind of just vanish, and it's quiet for quite some time. That is until 1901. When they end up being donated to the National Museum of Scotland, and that is where they still are on display today.
Ooh.
So some talk around the coffins ends up sparking back up in 1901 when they resurface at the museum, but not a lot comes up with it. Like, they end up just kind of being looked over again up until the 1990s. They had quite a while, like 80 years of just
chilling.
But in the early 90s, researchers began taking a closer look at them. We had Professor Samuel Menifee and Dr. Alan Simpson. I believe they were Americans, and they were doing some kind of work in Scotland, went into researching these coffins. In this research, they find that there are these differences. Like I mentioned before, there are differences in each coffin. To them, the fact that each one had a slight different build or a different height and just these little details were off, that confirmed that they were indeed handmade. They also believed that this confirmed that they were made by more than one person.
Oh.
Which I don't know if I buy that.
How would you know, though?
I think because some of the coffins were more squared off and some were more rounded, and some of the cuts were a little bit different on the metal.
Yeah,
so I think they
were
what
if you're just making different ones because you wanted them to be different?
Yeah, or you're not using a blueprint, you're just kind of doing it like as you go, and so each one comes out a tiny bit different.
I would think that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, they also said that because the heights were different between like 3 point whatever and 4 point whatever inches, that would confirm two different people, but I kind of disagree on that. I mean, who knows?
Me too.
Maybe.
I don't know. Because I feel like you probably wouldn't make them all exactly the same.
Yeah,
especially if they're handmade.
Exactly. Like, that to me is the thing that's like, it's handmade.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's going to have some differentiation between each piece.
Yeah.
But they also found that some of the coffins had traces of having once been painted pink or red, but it had since worn off. The limbs of these figures also appeared to have been able to move at one point. Some of them were
Oh.
also missing their arms, but they also had these lines across their forehead, and they believed that that forehead line marked that it was actually where a hat used to be.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So these researchers believed that these were actually toy soldiers that somebody took all the clothes off, redressed, and made coffins for.
Ooh,
It
that's
does make
odd.
sense because, like, the soldier toy, like, its arms would go back and forth. The
Mm-hmm.
feet were painted black. They believe that's to signal boots. Soldiers always wore boots. The hat could have been like some kind of helmet. They also realized that the metal that was used to decorate the tops of the coffins
Mm-hmm.
was actually the same kind of metal used to make shoe buckles in the early 1800s. They believed that these coffins were made by a shoemaker
Oh,
because
okay.
the shoemaker would have had access to that metal. They also noted how a shoemaker, if his livelihood, his craft was all about working with shoes, so it would be
Yeah.
metals and leathers,
Uh-huh.
he probably wasn't that great with wood, and that was why some of the wood had a kind of organic or not so perfect design to it.
Mm-hmm. Plus, he would also be dealing with small little details of things if he's working with shoes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the main theory is that it was a shoemaker or two shoemakers because they think it had to be two people.
Mm.
And it turns out that that thread that was used to stitch the clothes to some of the figures
Mm-hmm.
was a certain kind of thread that wasn't even available until 1830 in Scotland. The coffins were discovered in 1836. So they would have had to have been made at least 6 years prior to the discovery.
So
So
not that long.
no, like very recent. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, some of the dolls were placed more recently. It seems like this was a 6-year period of somebody making and putting these dolls in this tomb space. Somebody, or maybe two somebodies.
Somebody.
Also, while we're on the topic of the clothes, because the clothes did not look like typical funeral wear for a corpse in the 1830s, the researchers were convinced that they were supposed to be alive in these coffins. And
Ew.
also, because the eyes are left open on the figures,
Oh.
they're like, oh, they're clearly still alive.
Yeah.
But I disagree
You
because,
think they're dead?
I mean, they're in a coffin.
What if they're buried alive?
I don't know. I mean, to me, the clothing doesn't give like funeral for a corpse. It's not like something you'd be buried in, but it looked like just like everyday, like let's just throw some clothing on a doll kind of look, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't.
Maybe it's
Maybe
supposed to be what the person was last wearing. Ooh.
that would be a neat theory.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the dolls just already had open eyes
But
and
you could
they'd
paint
like
over them if they were painted. Some were pink and red, you said, but it was faded.
only the coffins were painted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I feel like it's either you're going to put all that attention into the detail and close the eyes or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't think it really makes a difference. I think they're representing something dead.
I think the opposite, but continue.
Okay. Well, we'll see what you think when we get into these theories here.
Okay.
So the first theory I'm going to talk about is the sailor effigy burial theory. This suggests that each wooden figure in each coffin represented a sailor who was lost at sea, and to ensure a proper burial, widowed women used these wooden figures as effigies, laying them to rest symbolically in these little tiny coffins and then having the little burial for them.
Yeah, but I think people would have known about that and it wouldn't have been such a witch hunt on who was doing this.
Right, these widowed women would come forward.
Yeah, and just be like, oh, it was because of that. And everyone would have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you would have had at least 17 widows.
Yeah, and then the ones that got destroyed might have came forward just because they were upset about it.
They go, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if it was supposed to be their loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Also to note, this practice was not recorded as something done in Scotland.
Oh.
And why would all this, every sailor looked almost identical? You know, it's like they put different clothes on some of them, but everything else remains the same.
Mm-hmm.
It seems, I don't know, this theory to me, it makes sense to some degree. Like I could see this being a thing.
Yeah, but then it
It
kind of
just,
falls apart because they're so similar, and if they're all making their own, or I don't know.
yeah.
And then who had the idea? And then just everybody went to like one person and was like, "Will you make this for me?" And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
You know, at the time, there was a newspaper that reported something about how there was an ancient custom where people would bury an effigy for loved ones in a distant land. I think that's where this theory initially sparks from.
Mm.
But again, it doesn't hold up.
No, I don't think so.
To kind of snowball off of that, though, the next theory I have is the sailor talisman theory. This suggests that these were good luck talismans made for sailors going out to sea.
Oh,
This was
how is
proposed.
that good luck? It's in a coffin.
Well, and they weren't taken to sea.
Yeah.
They were found in a mountain. They were each placed at different times. So to me, it doesn't look like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Also, somebody suggested, oh, perhaps there's someone making these dolls, these coffins, and selling them at markets to sailors. And this is their like little stash. But it's like, why would they store them
Yeah.
in the side of the mountain behind a stone slab? Also, why would you store them for so long, allowing them to get dirty and moldy?
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense. You would just keep it in your home and then bring it out to the market.
Yeah, and there was also no documentation or report of anyone selling this particular coffin to sailors.
That
Now, I
falls
will
apart.
say this was a practice done by German sailors.
Oh.
They did carry mandrake roots or dolls in coffins, and it was supposed to be good luck, but this practice was not ever documented for Scottish sailors. It was a German thing. And it wasn't that common either. I tried to look further into these German coffin doll talismans, and I couldn't really find a whole lot. So it doesn't seem like this was a big thing that was being done.
Like super pop culture?
Yeah. So the next theory we have is a little more fun, and that's the witchcraft theory.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the first thought that everyone had because they had this kind of voodoo doll look. They're in coffins. It's hidden behind a stone slab. It's out in the mountain. It's in this area that supposedly has connection to alleged mystical practices. So a newspaper called The Scotsman reported on the witchcraft theory and referred to this whole situation as, quote, satanic spell manufactory, which, cool. Okay. I love that.
Oh, what does that mean, though?
A space manufacturing spells for the devil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to put a sign on my front door that says satanic spell manufactory.
I like it. I bet nobody will knock on your door or accidentally try to open it again.
Oh. So, the Scotsman also published an article on July 16th, 1836, stating, quote, "Our own opinion would be, had we not some years ago abjured witchcraft and demonology, that there are still some of the weird sisters hovering about Mushat Cairn and the Windy Gowl, who retain their ancient power to work spells of death by entombing the likeness of those they wish to destroy."
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, same.
Same.
Also, just for a little bit of context, because I mentioned the Mushat Cairn, which I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but a cairn is this man-made pile of rocks. Mushat was the name of the man, the last name of the man who this particular pile of rocks is named after in this area. He murdered his wife on this pile of rocks, and then it was named after him. So I guess because these coffins were discovered near this cairn or pile of rocks, that a murder occurred, they are connecting it to satanic witchcraft and sacrifice.
Of course. Why wouldn't you? Makes sense.
Yeah, but the locals believed that the figures were puppets and that they were being used to hex people in town.
Little voodoo dolls.
Yes. However, there was no evidence of these figures being puppets at any point. They're really not traditional puppets at all. The puppets I don't think were done with wood. A puppet, also for context, a puppet is like a European voodoo doll.
Well, maybe this was just a specific, maybe someone like really didn't know what they were doing and they were just going rogue and felt like this would work.
Oh, maybe.
I mean, not everything has to be by the books, especially if maybe they had read about it or heard about it and didn't have a good visual and were like, oh, I'll do that. And then they decided maybe that was the only thing they had was wood. And especially if they're like a shoemaker, I feel like shoemakers would have like a lot of wood around because typically, because typically when you're working on shoes, they would put those little inserts, those little wooden inserts that keep the form and the shape of the shoe.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they made them out of, was like the old ones that were they couldn't use anymore for the work. Oh, I solved it.
A witchy shoemaker.
Yes, I like that. The witchy
hexing
shoemaker.
And binding everyone in town.
What if it was like if you had a rude customer, he was like, I'm going to hex you.
That'd be a cool movie.
Yeah, solved it.
Should we make that a show?
Yeah, we should. We should make that our B movie.
Okay, it's called The Shoemaker.
I think there's probably like 12 movies called The Shoemaker.
Yeah, but this one's going to take off.
This is the one. The Shoemaker.
It's called Buckle.
Oh, I like that.
Buckle. It's the metal the metal that is used to make the buckles is enchanted, and the witch can either use it for good and put it on the shoe, or use it for evil and put it on the coffin. And when it goes on the coffin, the symbolic person inside is bound.
Oh, love it. That's probably what happened. I believe it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even need to do the next theory then.
I believe it. We solved it. We're good.
Just for fun, let's try the next two theories, though.
Okay, for funsies.
So the next one's the vanishing man theory. This is my least favorite. It makes no sense to me. But reading it, I had to, like, in the research, I had to go over it over and over and over to try to understand, like, exactly what it was.
Okay.
And I almost didn't include it, but I was like, no, like, this is one of the listed theories. Let me just do it.
You have to. You can't not.
The vanishing man theory comes about after the coffins resurfaced in 1901. So remember, in 1901, they were donated to the museum. Then it went quiet. But they were talked about briefly again in 1906. This is because that newspaper, The Scotsman, the one who with the witchcraft claim, after hearing from a woman who wrote in saying that her father, Mr. B, was connected to the Arthur Seat coffins. According to this unknown woman, her father, Mr. B, had this unknown man come into his business a handful of times. Mr. B, describes this man as being daft and said that he was also deaf. But he said that he'd come in, and on a piece of paper, this unknown man draws 3 small coffins. Under each coffin, he wrote a date. One coffin was 1837, the next was 1838, and the last was 1840. This is very odd, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't think Mr. B thought anything of it at first. That is, until in 1837, a close relative of Mr. B dies.
Oh.
Then in 1838, his cousin died. Then in 1840, his brother died.
Oh, maybe he could see the future.
Perhaps. And perhaps this man came in trying to warn him.
Yeah.
But he was deaf. He probably didn't speak well. Mr. B probably didn't know sign language. So to warn him, he just drew a coffin and wrote these dates.
That makes sense to me.
It would make sense. Now, after all of these deaths, though, this man, this unknown man, comes back into Mr. B's workspace one last time. He comes in with a, quote, glowering look, which means angry.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives this angry look to Mr. B, walks out, and then just vanishes and is never seen again.
Ew, weird.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah, but I don't think it explains the coffins and the...
No.
No.
But according to the Scotsman, and according to the woman that this story came from, Mr. B knows the man connected to these coffins, and they believe that this man was the maker of the coffins.
I don't think so.
No, and I don't see how it even really connects.
Yeah. I mean, him drawing coffins and making coffins are kind of similar, but...
Yeah, and I
don't know.
It was this all happened after the coffins would have been discovered, and I kind of think whoever wrote in with this story maybe was just trying to find some quick fame.
Maybe, yeah.
Or maybe they're schizophrenic. I don't know. It doesn't add up to me at all.
No.
And that's why I was very confused as to how this made its way in, other than the fact that a newspaper reported its connection.
That's probably the only reason why.
Yeah. But I have one more theory for us.
Okay.
This next theory is the big one. It's going to kind of teeter into a mini true crime case. It's actually a very interesting case that now I'm like, damn, maybe I should have just covered this. But I did want to mostly address the coffins and the mystery around that.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot talk about the mystery of these coffins without this true crime case. Now we're going to get into the Burke and Hare, or Westport murders theory. For context, in the early 1800s, Edinburgh became a well-known center for medical advancements. A big part of that work involved cadavers for dissection and surgeries and other medical research, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There was this influx of medical students. The universities needed bodies to research. However, because they couldn't keep up with the demand and the growth of the medical world in this area, they were running out of bodies to use. So they had this body shortage. They were also not doing public executions quite the same way that they were before. So
that's a shame.
I know. So because originally one of the key ways that they would get these cadavers for research was after an execution, or if any criminal died, their body went to science, or if they found a stray body on the side of the road or something, or someone committed suicide, or children from orphanages. That's where these medical research bodies would come from.
So we're just not getting as many stray bodies as we used to.
No, things aren't what they were before.
No.
Back in my day, you could grab a body. You go to Kmart and you pick out your body.
They're just everywhere on the side of the road.
Christmas
You wait for Execution Friday. No.
When I TGI Fridays. And when I was a kid, instead of a Christmas tree, we just suspended a body from the ceiling.
We called it Festivus for the rest of us.
Anyway, back to the case. So because of this body shortage, this actually ends up leading to body snatching becoming a new career path for certain individuals.
Grave robbers.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure, but I think grave robbers and body snatchers are actually different.
Oh.
Now, I've referred to grave robbing in several episodes as taking the body from the grave, and maybe that is the proper term, but I'm now after doing this research, I'm thinking body snatchers where you take the body out of the grave, and then grave robbing is where you rob things from the corpse.
Oh, that would make more sense, actually.
Yeah. I'm not sure, though, so if anyone wants to weigh in.
Let's just go with it. It sounds like it makes sense.
Yes. So these body snatchers would get paid for every body that they brought in. They were actually called, this is so fun, body snatchers at the time were called resurrectionists.
Oh, to bring you back to life.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, they were actually employed by doctors and surgeons who needed these bodies for their medical research. and they would pay these body snatchers to dig up graves and bring them in. So, with these body snatchers on the rise, people were burying their dead loved ones with an iron mort cage, which was designed to protect the grave from being robbed. This actually ends up leading to a duo, William Burke and William Hare, who were working for an anatomist named Robert Knox in 1828. Hare was a landlord. In November of 1827, he came across one of his tenants dead in the building. Hare gets the help of his friend, a shoemaker, William Burke. So William Burke is a shoemaker.
It's him.
Burke helps Hare bring the body to Robert Knox at the medical university where he's giving medical lectures. Robert Knox purchases the body. They made a pretty penny off of donating this body or selling this body to science. This sparks an idea for the two, and they realize that they can make a pretty good living on selling bodies to Knox. This then leads to not body snatching, but instead a killing spree over the next year. In that year, they killed a total of 16 innocent people, selling their bodies to Knox at the university for research and lectures. They were eventually caught in November of 1828. Burke was put to death by hanging January 28th, 1829. And Hare actually got off because he confessed and gave Burke away.
Oh, I wonder if they used his body for medical science.
They did.
Full circle.
So Hare, after ratting his friend out, he made a run for it. I don't know if he fled the country or if no, he didn't. He did not flee the country. His wife divorced him and fled the country. Hare actually stayed in the area.
Ew, and everybody was new. He went around killing people. He was a
murderer. He literally got off. Nothing. 16 victims, nothing.
Wild times.
Meanwhile, Robert Knox claimed that he was not aware of any of the murders. He thought it was simply body snatching and nothing more, allegedly.
Some fresh bodies.
Yeah.
It's why are they all bludgeoned to death?
Yeah, what are the odds of that?
Right.
But Knox also stayed in the area for quite a while. Two of them, Hare and Knox, both stayed in Edinburgh. Let's just keep that in mind.
So weird.
But you asked about Burke's body being donated to science after they executed him.
Mm-hmm.
So Burke was publicly executed, and then Professor Monroe had a lecture on February 1st, and he displayed Burke's body right away at his lecture, and this is fascinating. Professor Monroe, during this lecture, even dipped his quill pen into Burke's dripping blood and wrote on a piece of paper, quote, "This is written with the blood of W.M. Burke, who was hanged at Edinburgh. This blood was taken from his head."
Oh, creepy.
I know. And we talked about this on another episode, the Red Barn murder.
Uh-huh.
The murderer in that case, remember, he was publicly executed.
Yeah.
His body was put on display, donated to science, and then they tried to bring him back to life.
Yeah, they tried a lot with that guy, though.
They did a lot. They did more with Burke's body, too, actually.
Oh.
So Burke's skeleton was then donated to science at the Edinburgh Medical School, where it is still on display.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it gets crazier. His death mask and a book bound with his skin is said to be displayed. Yeah, they did that with the Red Barn murder killer.
Yeah, they like to do that.
But you can see his flesh book and death mask at the Surgeon's Hall.
Whoa, let's go.
Yeah, please. So, how exactly does this connect to the coffins? Well, it is believed that each wooden figure is an effigy of one of Burke and Hare's victims.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I didn't want to interrupt you when you were like, they killed these people. I was like, oh, they made little effigies for them.
Yeah, so perhaps it was some kind of psychopathic symbolic trophy, serial keeper.
Or maybe they did feel bad.
Yeah, it could have been a symbolic burial because of their guilt.
Mm-hmm.
But So 16 victims, but there are 17 discovered coffins. However, they did donate, or they did sell a total of 17 bodies.
Maybe they did feel bad that they were giving these bodies to science to just be chopped up and displayed and kind of thrown away once they were done.
Yeah. In terms of the numbers, remember there were 2 rows of 8. So 16, and then 1 by itself. The 17th was alone.
Yeah.
So that would be 16 that they murdered, and then the 1 who they found dead and sold.
Well, that's it. Why do we even have theories?
I know.
There it is.
I mean, not
that's
everyone.
That's so obvious.
A lot of people are still on the fence about it. A lot of people think that it is not connected to this case because of the fact that there are 17 coffins and Burke and Hare had 16 bodies. Also, because Burke and Hare died. Well, Burke died in 1829. Hare seemingly vanished. Mm-hmm. However, even though Hare and Knox kind of go under the radar, they stayed in the same area for quite a while. They survived. And maybe they were the ones doing it, even though Burke was the shoemaker, but it doesn't add up in terms of remember the thread that was used to stitch the clothes to the dolls wasn't available until 1830, and Burke died in 1829.
Maybe he had early access.
Or maybe he got a different thread from another country, or it didn't start until a little bit later. The guilt really started to set in for Knox or Hare.
Mm-hmm. I think it's them. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I think it makes more sense for it to be the doctor, Robert Knox, because if he wasn't the murderer. So maybe he's like, wow, I coerced these guys to kill. And he feels all this guilt for it. So he made the effigies?
I don't know, because then why would he make that random one and not just the 16 people that got murdered?
Maybe Hare started it and Knox finished it.
Which is why people think it was 2 different people.
Yeah, and maybe they were using some of the supplies left from Burke, like his shoemaking supplies, like the metal. Now, one interesting thing to note about this case is that historians suggest Hare was actually the leader, and he coerced Burke. So Burke took the fall. So maybe because Hare got away with it, and the one that shouldn't have been executed was executed, maybe that's part of the guilt.
Yeah.
For Hare? I don't know.
I could see that. I don't know.
But
I feel like that makes the most sense, is it's connected with those guys.
Yeah. They did do forensics, though. They did take a sample from Burke's skeleton and test the DNA, and they did not find any traces of it at all on any of the coffins.
Did they find any DNA?
No, but I will say they did not take a proper sample. They weren't able to get the normal size of a sample they would to normally do any kind of testing.
Waste of time.
And now the skeleton is not allowed to be touched. Are you on the same page as me that it was Burke and Hare?
Yeah, I think it's those 2 guys. But I do like the witch theory. That's fun.
That's the most interesting theory, but it doesn't really... There's really no evidence for it. It's just kind of like, I think this could happen.
Like, it's fun, but this makes more sense and there's evidence, so yeah. I don't understand why it's considered unsolved. It seems to me like the evidence is right there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like that case with Brian Egg, the guy
emerged in his still unsolved, but it's like, okay.
We know damn well who did it.
Yeah, we do.
But they didn't have the right evidence to convict the killers. For whatever reason.
Well, I think we solved it.
Is this the direction you expected this episode to go?
No, not at all.
It went a lot of different ways.
I thought it was going to be like fairies, and maybe they turn to wood or something when they die, or something mystical and mythical. Not murder.
Nope.
No.
Well, that's all I have on the Arthur's Seat coffins.
Well, I guess with that, we'll say...
Good night.
And pleasant nightmares.
Bye.
Bye.